Why, hello, Tube. Today we have The Art of Living by Epictetus, translated by Sharon Lebell. Epictetus was born 50 AD in Turkey, died in 135 AD in Greece. He was spent a lot of his time in um, Rome till he was exiled. Apparently, a lot of the philosophers were exiled from Rome during Nero's time. He was born as into slavery. His master being Epaphroditus, Epaphroditus, who was a secretary to Nero. And we get his text today because of his student Arian, who wrote down his teachings. And Epictetus himself learned from a dude named Rufus. The dog is laying in my bed, doing something, making a lot of noise. I apologize for that. And Sharon Lebell, she's a translator, an author, a musician, and she translated these works. Now, The Art of Living, I'm not sure if all of these were originally compiled into one. I don't know when they were compiled. I don't know if they were compiled 2,000 years ago, essentially, and like that ever since, or if it was much later by somebody. I wasn't really able to find that information. But what these basically are just brief little tidbits, nuggets of stoic stoic philosophies, little bite-sized nuggets. And Sharon Lebell does an excellent job of kind of updating it and making it easily digestible. Uh, Here's a little one that's like 3 lines. Don't demand or expect that events happen as you would wish them to. Accept events as they actually happen. That way, peace is possible. Very, very Buddhist of him. Which that's one of the things that was kind of struck me was that a lot of these little nuggets, a lot of the Stoic uh, philosophy nuggets that are in this book feel very Eastern religious, Buddhist and or Hindu or Jainism. Basically Zen. Basically, any of those little offshoots of the Eastern religions kind of seem to go hand in hand with Stoicism. I was going to read the first one here. It says, know what you can control and what you can't. So we'll read this first and we'll talk about it briefly and then we'll call it a day. Happiness and freedom begin with a clear understanding of one principle. Some things are within our control and some things are not. Again, very Eastern, very Indian. Um, It is only after you have faced up to this fundamental rule and learned to distinguish between what you can and can't control that inner quality and outer effectiveness are become possible. Essentially, if you worry about what you cannot control, you're going to have a life full of anxiety, depression, anger, frustration, you name it. You just accept the fact that you can't control everything, like a dog that is acting like a goofball on the bed while you're trying to make a video, you'll just laugh it off. Apollo. Ha 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 ha. That was corny. Within our control are our own opinions, aspirations, desires, and the things that repel us, which, yeah. These areas are quite rightly our concern because they have directly subject to our influence. We always have a choice about contents and characters of our inner lives, which we I think we always have the choice to change whether or not we can change, but I think a lot of our aspirations, desires, things that repel us, our opinions, a lot of those are kind of inherited, don't you think? Maybe a little bit. But we very much, once we become a full thinking adult, I think we can, we definitely have a lot more of our own free will when it comes to that sort of thing. Outside our control, however, are such things as what kind of body we have, whether we're born into wealth or struck it rich, how we are regarded by others, that our status in society. That line hasn't really aged well because all of those are pretty much at some point in our life we have control over. We must remember that those things are externals and are therefore not our concern. Trying to control or to change what we can't only results in torment, which is true. But we can't control how we're born into wealth, but we can kind of control if we want to strike it rich or not. We can. We all have control over if we do well in school, if we go to college, like me. Uh, we can choose to work our butts off. Some people. It's. I'm not saying it's easy for everyone. It's much easier for some people than others. But if you have the tenacity to become a millionaire, you're gonna become a millionaire. We're not really born in a slave to our um, into our social class for our entire lives, like we were for like the first 2,000 years of written history. Um, but things have changed a lot. But uh, I can see why he's saying this because back in 100 AD, I think if you were born, I think if you're born into slavery, you're only a slave for so long, and then you got your freedom. But you know, whether you're born a slave, Epictetus was probably a wealthy man, with all things considered when he died. I don't know that for a fact, but I know Seneca was a wealthy man, so he may not got paid directly, but I'm sure he had a hell of a status in Rome up until the philosophers weren't allowed anymore. Remember, the things within our power are naturally at our disposal, free from any restraint or hindrance. But those things outside our power are weak, dependent, or determined by whims and actions of others. Remember, too, that if you think that you have free reign over things that are naturally beyond your control, or if you attempt to adopt the affairs of others as you own, your pursuits will be thwarted and you will become frustrated, anxious, and fault finding person. But yeah, I mean, if you spend your entire life, like, I think the saying is, if you're an anxious person, you live in the future, and if you're a depressed person, you live in the past. And I guess if you just live in the present, you're both. But but when you worry about things that are out of your control, or things that you have done or have been done to you, if you worry about those things after the fact or before the fact, or if you're anxious about there's big storms happening in Texas right now at the time of this recording. If you're anxious, I'm a weather anxious person. I don't like storms. I don't like driving in storms. I don't like when there's storms outside. I'm at home. Um, but you know, is there reason to be anxious? No. But try telling my brain that. You're worrying about things that could and probably won't happen. But yeah, so it's basically just like 93 little nuggets of stoic goodness. And I gotta say, even if you're not into this stuff, if you're not into this hippy dippy stoicism philosophy, any of that stuff, I still think that if you read it and gave it a good shot, you'd come away with some good stuff from this book. So, The Art of Living by Epictetus, awesome book. I highly suggest reading it. and I have another channel that is I shouldn't have started it because I should have known better because I'm just not gonna have time to. I don't have time to do one channel alone too. But eventually down the road, I hope to have separate videos on all these little stoic nuggets of goodness. Um, but it'll be a while, I think. Before I shouldn't have started it yet. I should have. Yeah. Anyway, that's besides the point. That's it for this one piece. Let me know down below. Have you read The Art of Living? If you know when these little nuggets were compiled, I'd be interested in knowing that. And if you've read this, if you haven't read this, I don't know where I'm at. I'm tired. Um, Story of my life. But anyway, if you like Epictetus, comment down below. If you don't like him, comment down below. And that's it for this one. Peeps. Cheers.